All right, welcome to another episode of the I Tried to Be Straight podcast with Nate and Susie and
Brittany.
Yeah. We have Brittany here today, who is another pastor's kid. Woo woo. And
just another gay PK.
Yeah, she drove all the way up here from LA, and we are very happy and thankful to have her. But, you know, since we've been asking like random questions that I have to think of right in the moment, I want to ask both of you, before we get into your story, what is like the secret, most fun thing about being gay that like surprised you?
Oh, the secret.
Like, what's like a secret perk?
Question, Nate. Okay, well, I'm going to call you out.
How does this back on me?
See, I told you she could.
She's just going to call me out again.
The other day we were hanging out and Nate said, "Thank God you're gay. Otherwise you would be a Disney adult."
and I stand by that.
And I remember you saying that and I was like, I never thought I would hear anybody say, "Thank God you're gay." And I was like, wow, that's like a really nice, like cute little surprise. And also that I'm not a Disney adult.
Yeah, thank God. No, and I stand by that because there's no way to say this without sounding like a jerk. But like, I just feel like you have more like texture because you're gay.
Not all my other trauma. It's just because I'm gay.
No, I just was like from a really churchy culture, and I think we both were. And I think if I was just like in churchy culture forever and never like deconstructed or challenged things a little bit, I'd probably be like this like cute little like kind of
like hipster boy.
Yeah, like churchy boy. And I feel like same with you. Like I feel like also thank God I'm gay because I feel like I'm much more entertaining now. And just like, I don't know, I feel like gay people dress more fun too.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I feel like we have to have better style, otherwise like we get a gay card removed. So like I just feel like it elevates us. Honestly,
I did get a letter the other week in the mail and it was like, you're in danger. You're in danger of
your
getting
gay card.
Your gay card from
Disney, too much Disney.
Yeah,
gay card about you. Because if I watch Disney,
Inside Out too.
Yeah,
we might remove
because you are still giving Disney adults
that movie.
You can watch Disney stuff and it makes you less. If I watch Disney stuff, it makes me more gay. But we don't need to talk about
interesting.
that.
Okay.
That's a whole nother.
Anyways,
thing.
Brittany,
you said you got a letter in the mail. For a second, I was like, from who?
The gay association.
The gay police. You're not gay enough. Get on Nate's level. Did you have anything? You don't have to.
That was. I think just like the more I lean into my gayness. It like the more fun it is, and it's maybe not even about like the gayness, it's just the more you lean into like being authentically yourself. I saw a tweet the other day that said 2024 is for the lesbians, and I was like, I'm here for it, it's my year. So but that's like something that you have to be like able to lean into for it to be fun, or else it's just dramatic.
Yeah, I agree.
So true.
I think there's a lot of fun stuff like leaning into it. It's kind of like there's a lot of enjoyable things about it. Being different is actually kind of awesome. Now, once you embrace it, you're like, actually, it's kind of cool to have this unique thing about me.
And it's Pride Month, and so once you can like get to a point where you're celebrating it, that's fun.
Yeah,
very fun.
That's so true.
Well, that was really sweet. Thanks for answering my question. I like that you had to, but then you somehow made it against me. It's fine. That was well played. That was well played. You get points for that. I never thought to like turn it back around on you. Brittany, if you'd be down, I would love to get into your story, starting from wherever you want to start, because it's a damn good story. I've heard a little bit of it. So are you down? You ready?
What if I just said no? What would we do?
Then we would talk about,
I guess we could talk about
Susie and Disney for a while. I can go on that for a long time.
My God.
Like, I'm so good for her. I'm really like just bringing out all of her
all the great qualities.
Great qualities. This is probably why you didn't invite me to go see that movie, isn't it?
Inside Out too.
Yeah, I didn't get the invite.
I needed a good cry.
You need to watch a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know I needed that too. Holy crap! You don't know me at all. So what?
But my answer is not no. My answer was yes.
Okay,
yes,
cool. Because I was just gonna go straight to riffing to save the
yeah.
awkwardness. I was just gonna go straight into like that. But well,
You're
I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna start my story with like 100 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
So my great grandparents immigrated here from Mexico about 100 years ago.
Wow.
And they came and started a church in a field where people were picking fruit. And that's the church that they became pastors of. And then my grandparents became the pastors of that church. And now my parents are the pastors of that church.
Wow.
So yeah, I come from a long line of pastors, and that's the church that I grew up in. And also, as you guys know, like growing up in church and being gay can be difficult and comes with its whole other set of challenges. So I'm a pastor's kid, grew up in church, grew up going to a pretty small conservative Christian school, went to the same school my whole life. So home, school, church are all kind of like my little bubble that I grew up in. And then as with any other family, every family has its own challenges too. And that was part of my story as well. My parents got married pretty young and had a difficult relationship. But part of the challenge to that is you're home and you see the difficulties of that relationship and the realities of what's going on at home. And then you go to church and you have to flip the switch because you are the pastor's family. And the set of expectations that comes with that of being the perfect representation of whatever it's supposed to be. Like somehow being a Christian or being a part of a pastor's family, apparently that means like being perfect and not showing, Nate, you know, you get it. And so there's this constant tension of who we are at home and what's actually happening, and then who we are outside of those four walls. And so at a young age, I got really, really good at flipping that switch and having two different realities of who I'm supposed to be, what the expectation is, and then what's actually happening. And that eventually helped me with being gay because it made it a little bit easier to compartmentalize different parts of me and different sides of me. But I got really good at reading rooms and reading situations and reading people and knowing pretty quickly who I needed to be and what I needed to be to not just keep the peace, but at the very least, like not create any waves.
Yeah.
When did you start to realize that you were gay?
I have this really vivid memory in 5th grade, and it like stopped me dead in my tracks because I remember like walking down this hallway and all of a sudden just having this realization of like, oh, I like that girl. And there was nothing like romantic or even sexual about it. It was just as much as a 5th grader can perceive that. The same way that girls like boys, it like hit me all of a sudden. And there was no feeling attached to it of like, this is good or this is bad. It was just what was. It was almost just a fact of like, I liked a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I knew. And it wasn't some conscious thought for a really long time after that. But that was the first time that I remember even having the realization that I was attracted to girls.
What was like the narrative around gay people in your house and church and stuff, like around that time?
Fun fact, I didn't actually meet like a gay person until I was almost 21.
Whoa.
Like 20. So, and by, I'm sure there were people around that were gay. I didn't meet an openly gay, like someone that was accepting of themselves. So the narrative was like us and them. Like there are Christians and we're here. And then out there in the world somewhere existed these gay people almost as like mythological creatures.
Evil mythological creatures.
Yes, evil ones. And when gay people were presented anyway, like in media, whether it was a movie or a TV show, or some hypothetical situation, they were never painted in a good light. It was very clear that they were not, one, they definitely weren't Christians, but two, they weren't good people. And they were kind of scary.
So like, dangerous. What did that do to you when you were in 5th grade and you realized like, oh my gosh, I like that girl?
So in that moment, there really was no like, this makes me bad. That was just kind of a realization that I had of, I think I like girls. It wasn't until I think I was in high school that I started to attach those feelings of, this makes me a bad person, basically.
Whoa. Yeah. Well, so moving into that part of the story, what was the high school experience like? And, you know, like, what is the next part of your story, basically?
Yeah. Just normal life goes on. And as you get older and you start to realize those things, there's so much else going on just with growing up. And there was always just a lot going on, even within just the regular life, like home life and things like that. And maintaining all of the different things of being a pastor's family. That getting into high school was when it just kind of started to creep in again.
Yeah.
I tried dating guys a little bit. It wasn't it. At some point in high school, I really started to battle it.
Yeah.
And it became like what every church kid is told to do. Like, you pray about your problems. And so I literally tried to pray the gay away.
Yeah.
And nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't change even a little bit.
Yeah.
If you had to put a number on like how many hours you prayed the gay away, just like a rough estimate, how many hours do you think you spent praying the gay away as a pastor's kid? Because I'm gonna say mine was like 2,000 or something if I had to put a number on it.
Yeah. I mean, it was
like insane.
At least twice a day for however long. I mean, years. I don't know. I could crunch the numbers, but it's probably 2,000 sounds like a good ballpark number.
Yeah. So adequate number of hours spent praying the gay away.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
I got that badge. But you know that story in the Bible where Jesus' disciples are like trying to cast out a demon and they can't. And then Jesus comes and he casts it out and they're like, what the heck? How come we couldn't do it and you could? And he explains there are some things that you have to fast for because they're like bigger. And so I was like, that's it. This is such a big problem that I can't just pray it away. Like, I need to fast and pray.
Dang.
And so for a really long time, I spent 1 day a week fasting.
Dang.
To try and I got to come up with a word that rhymes with fast, but I tried to fast the gay away.
Let's put our heads together.
Someone drop a comment.
What kind of fasting? Like, did you not eat anything all day?
No, I wouldn't eat until 2:00. So I would fast like breakfast and lunch.
Yeah. Which, like, when you're a school kid that's like pretty athletic, that was probably pretty intense.
Yeah, and that's why it was only until 2 because I would have practice at 3, and so I like had to eat before practices.
But even then, you're probably like suffering at your practices still because you hadn't eaten for the first like 10 hours of the day.
Or like coming up with excuses while like your friends are eating, and you're like, no, I'm not hungry or whatever it is. But like they have no idea that it's because you're quite literally trying to not be gay anymore.
Starve the gay.
Ooh, we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
Starve the gay away.
Brittany doesn't eat on Monday. Let's help with that.
Yeah. Totally.
Dang, that's impressive. And how old were you when this was all happening? Like, you're fasting at like age talking like 16?
This would have been like my sophomore and junior year.
Okay, so you're like 16 and you're fasting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dang. Fasting gay, which is pastor's kid style for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Did anyone know?
No.
Okay.
Did anyone think you had like other issues? Because like a 16-year-old girl not eating, I'd be like,
No, outside of that time, healthy appetite. I was.
Yeah.
I
okay,
was
so
good.
they're like, she's okay.
Yeah,
she's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never told anyone this part of the story.
Exclusive.
I had a fat crush on this girl.
Dang.
And I felt so badly about it. Like, there was so much shame attached to it.
Yeah.
And thinking about it now, like, I work at a school and I work with middle school and high school kids. And when you think about a kid at that age that has a crush, like, that's supposed to be such a magical thing.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to come with like butterflies attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just feel terrible about it. Like, yeah. I can't help myself. Like, I just really like this girl. And so that became part of my fasting, was like, I felt like if I could pray like for her, that like that would help shift my feelings towards her to be more godly, or whatever it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Whatever a 16-year-old figures out to do when they're dealing with like impossible situations.
Yeah, exactly. And plot twist. So this is my junior year of high school. Plot twist. She had a crush on me too. And one day at school, she just like comes up to me and kisses me.
Whoa.
What? I know.
Dang, and now old girl.
In retrospect, I'm like, you mean to tell me I prayed and I fasted for this thing? And the answer was like, she kissed me. I should have known then that.
God? You should have told me.
You?
Okay.
Wow,
that felt like, crazy. I mean, it felt like a holy moment. I'm sure to you it felt holy.
It was fun, obviously, in the moment, but then like the wave of shame.
Yeah. For being kissed.
Yes. That comes after that is just, again, something that should be so, like, we're 16 and it's a kiss, like totally normal for that age. Mm-hmm. And should be something that is so cute and so fun. Mm-hmm. And then it's just not. That was that. And at the time, there was also just a ton of family stuff going on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that kind of took the focus there for a while. And so the gay thing and all of that took a little bit more of a backseat. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to my senior year of high school now. And I'm like really, really struggling with it. I'm like battling it. Mm-hmm. And part of, because all of my worlds were so close and like my bubble was so small.
Yeah.
One of my worries was that if I told someone, like if I told an adult, it would somehow then get relayed back to my parents.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was the big fear of like being outed.
Yeah.
Of course.
And not having a place or a space to talk to someone about it without it going anywhere else. Mm-hmm. But I had this moment where I just kind of broke and I told an adult in my life about it. Like just as something that I was struggling with. Like I think I'm gay. And this was the first time I had like said the words out loud. And their response was like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know why? It was an odd response at first. Whoa. And I was like, wait, like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
To them, it was so obvious why I would think that I was gay. And they were like, well, obviously, because you don't have a great relationship with your dad.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Like, kind of like crunching the numbers. Like, does this add up? Like, the math isn't mathing for me. I don't entirely know what that means, like how those two are connected.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of the end of that conversation. And it was, I don't want to say dismissed, but it was very much like, well, here's the answer for you. Like, we can move on from it.
Yeah.
And so, again, not really having another place to know how to explore that. I Googled it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, yeah, of course.
Classic.
You know, the internet has great information.
The questioning gay's best friend, Google, with a lot of great answers. It's just like when you go on WebMD and it's like, you're going to die in a week. And it's like, gay searches are almost as bad.
Checks out.
Totally. Gay searches are the worst when you're closeted.
Yep.
Did you do like the BuzzFeed quizzes?
The gay test?
Am I gay?
I've done that.
No, I knew I was gay.
I was like hopeful, and I like every time I'd be like over 50%. Like, damn it! Can I
over
take it again?
50%.
Like, well, maybe I answered this wrong.
It's close enough that it could be either way.
Yeah, I'm bi. Nope. But
yes.
So you went on there. You Googled.
Yeah. I did the Google thing and came across some blog or article clearly written by a Christian, and it was like reasons that you might think you're gay. And it was like, you know, broken relationship with your father, because then you will not have ever learned how to connect with men. And so you won't think that you're attracted to men. Therefore, you will think that you are attracted to women. Or like an emotionally distant relationship with your mother, because then you will just be seeking out the attention from another woman that you didn't get from your mother. Or like sexual abuse, because then you will just have some perverted idea of sex, and a perverted idea of sex obviously leads to homosexuality.
Sheesh.
And like check. And so now I'm like, okay, so maybe I'm not actually gay. Maybe me thinking that I'm gay is just some symptom of all of these other traumas in my life that I need to work through. And it just adds these other layers of having to reason through who you actually are. But these things that are being thrown at you of like, no, there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed. And once those things are fixed, then the symptom of being gay will go away too.
Damn.
It's crazy because all those things, I know plenty of straight people who have bad relationships with their dad, bad relationships with their mom, like SA stuff in their past, and they're still very straight.
And plenty of gays that have had none of that. And are also very gay.
Very gay.
It's like, I think the psychologists would all agree that we don't know exactly what makes someone gay, but it's definitely not any of those things.
Especially in the church.
Like
any reason that you can give to explain it, instead of accepting it, I guess it's easier to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it buys you some time.
Yep. It keeps you kind of confusion and being like, oh, well, there's a problem that I can fix. And then it makes everybody feel more validated and like fighting it if it's just a problem that was created by one of these things, instead of like, if this is just part of you, then how could we not accept that person? It changes the whole narrative in a way that lets the church kind of keep fighting it. Anyways.
Totally. So that's my senior year of high school. I go to college the next year. And
you're still gay?
Still.
You were still gay. Okay. So, just making sure.
No, she had a little straight moment and then to this day.
I just want to, keep that in there. So still gay at college. Got it. Go. Yes. It's all you know.
And it's only like a slightly bigger version of the bubble that I've grown up in. It is a smaller Christian university, same denomination of the church that I grew up in. And it's non-affirming and all of those things. And what I do appreciate about the experience is that for the first time, I felt like I could at least challenge my own belief system. Even if it wasn't like challenging the organization or the church in general. I had space to kind of begin to wrestle with just my own belief systems and why I believed what I believed. And if I couldn't back it up, or if I couldn't talk my way through it, then maybe I shouldn't believe those things. And on top of it, because it was a Christian university, it equipped me to read scripture in a way that was actually really helpful for me. It gave me the tools that I needed to figure out what scripture was saying, not what I was being told it said. And so for the first time, I was able to kind of research on my own what the Bible said and do that like exegetical work of the context of it, what was intended, who the audience was, all of those things that give it so much more clarity than plucking out a single verse or a single story to mean whatever that person might want it to mean. So still really struggling with the whole gay thing. And that's not, now it's starting to grow because now I'm a little bit more in a new world with new people. And I'm 18, 19, and dating is starting to become something that's a little bit more like relevant in my life. But still really struggling. So we had campus pastors who were also students. And so I set up a meeting to go to coffee with, side note, I saw one of the funniest TikToks I've ever seen this morning. And it was this guy talking about how traumatizing it is when someone at church asks if you want to go get coffee, because it usually means they're going to confront you about something.
Yeah.
Literally, we're just talking about that. So I set up a coffee meeting.
Yeah, I did just get someone wants to have coffee with me. Yesterday they told me it's an old pastor friend. So we'll see how that goes.
It's like, do you want to have coffee?
Like, do you want
throw coffee?
Oh no. I don't have energy right now, I'm gonna be honest. We'll see what I say. Anyways.
And I hit her with it. And I'm like, I think I'm gay. I'm like, I don't want to be gay, but I think I am. Like, I've been struggling with it for a long time. And poor thing, the look on her face.
Oh my gosh.
She's like 19 or something.
Panic. No, totally. Like, she wasn't that much older than me. Yeah. She was an undergrad student, training to be a pastor. And
good training.
She had nothing.
She had nothing.
We're sitting like across a table and she goes, let me pray for you.
Her prayer's gonna work.
Oh no.
The 10 years of praying you did.
Yeah.
This girl, this 19-year-old girl, she got it. She can pray this off.
Yeah. So
what was her prayer?
God, we bring this to you and help her.
Please.
Help me. Help her.
But very like, we know this is not what you want for her. This is not your design. And like, she's wrestling and she's struggling. So like, honor that. And then, you know, amen. And where do you go from there other than, so we can walk back awkwardly now to campus, and just like the most quiet walk ever. Man. And then never spoke to her again.
No. That's so tough.
That's so rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Truthfully, I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
She was so unequipped for that moment.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Yeah.
Like, people don't have answers for that a lot of times. And this was, gosh, this would have been almost 15 years ago. Yeah. So think about even back then.
Super different now.
How much less people were equipped for that.
Yeah. Not even ready to have a conversation. And there is no answer. So like, everyone's going to be like kind of confused. It takes a while to come up with the different like roundabouts that Christians use nowadays. Like a 19-year-old hasn't been trained and they're like, well, but what about this and this and this and this? It's like, they're just like, I'll pray.
Yeah.
It goes away. It's the best you could do.
And also, if she grew up the way I grew up, it was like we were distant mythological creatures. You weren't confronted with someone who was in the church struggling with that kind of thing. It was like a sinner out in the world. Yeah. And so you weren't having to have that conversation. It was very clear of like, this person chose this lifestyle. Yeah. They're choosing to live in their sin. Yeah. What do you say to the person who is like desperately trying to get out of it? And the praying isn't working? Nothing, apparently.
Nothing. Also, it's contagious and scary in a lot of people's books. So she's like, I don't want to risk catching that.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward, you come out. How did that come about?
Well, actually, I kind of want to hear the next part of the story. Was there any bit left there?
There was a couple years in between that, but a lot of the same. Just wrestling.
More of that.
Yeah. My second year in college was when I figured out I wanted to start coaching. And so I coach basketball. And so I moved back and was doing like an online thing with school so that I could move back and coach.
Nice. So your final year, you did the coaching and school at the same time?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I went back to the school that I grew up in. So
that's cool.
Like your family's school, like where to teach, to just coach basketball.
So I went to the same school from like K to 12.
Yeah.
And it was a Christian school, very similar to, not connected anyway, but similar in like traditions and values and stuff as the church that I grew up in. So it was cool to go back there and do that. But again, I'm like reinserting myself into that same bubble of just a non-affirming Christian environment. Yeah. So at about 2021, my aunt, who I have one aunt, it's my dad's sister, and she has been like a second mom to me and one of like the biggest allies in my life. One day very casually was like, so you dating any girls?
Out of nowhere?
And I had never said anything. And at that point I hadn't dated any girls. And so like the most defensive tone you can possibly imagine. I'm like, no, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Dang.
And that moment was like the first moment that I felt like that would have been a normal conversation if I would have said yes. Mm-hmm. And the world wouldn't have ended and she would have been totally fine with it.
Yeah.
Growing up, when I was growing up, she had a lot of gay friends. And while I was never like really, I didn't hang out with them or spend time around them, I knew she did. And I knew she was very okay with gay people. Like she's probably been more to more prides than I've been to, like things like that, where I knew that there was at least a space and a place and a person that if and when I was ready to, I could.
Wow.
And so she was the first person that I told when I was dating someone.
Dang.
So cute.
So she's the first person you came out to.
Yeah.
And so you started your first, who's your first date? Like, where'd you meet her? What made you decide to actually come out and start dating?
Shocker. I met her through basketball.
Nice.
And it was a friend of a friend. And it was she was not out either. And so it was very gradual. We were friends for a really long time. And like, it took a really long time for either of us to admit that there was more than a friendship there.
Dang.
And it was like everything that you imagine with a first, like just the butterflies and all that. But at the same time, there was the other, like that was a very compartmentalized part of my life because I was still working at a school where I couldn't be out. I was working at a church. I had all these different pockets of my life where I could figure out, because I learned how to do it as a kid, who I needed to be, what I needed to be in order to be accepted in that space.
Yeah.
In order to be good in that space.
Yeah.
And not that any of those parts of me weren't real. There just wasn't a space where I could bring all of them.
Yeah.
So exploring like this new side of me, but still wrestling with like, is this okay? Is this not okay? Never really imagining at that point that I would ever be out.
Yeah.
And so how do you imagine a long-term relationship, a serious relationship, and never coming out?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's, some people do it. Like for some people that's life.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that looked like. My first year in college was like the starting point, was like the trigger for me to really begin to wrestle with that. And that was, a little over 10 years ago.
Wow.
And it has not been linear by any means. Like there have been times where it's a lot of backwards before forwards, and it has been fear sometimes, and it's been shame sometimes, and it's been anger sometimes. But then the moments of acceptance, the moments of joy, the moments of being seen and being like loved after that, totally worth all of those other moments.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
How's your relationship with God now?
The best it's ever been.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Why? What makes it so great?
It's more authentic now than it's ever been because I don't have to hide anything.
Wow.
Preach on that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And it took a long time to get here.
Yeah.
It took a lot of really hard choices of removing myself from places and situations and relationships that were harmful for me.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's so difficult in navigating that is that a lot of that harm can come from people and places that you love.
Yeah.
And that's part of it for me is, one of the things in like leading up to this and talking to my therapist was, how do I tell my story in a way where I honor myself and my experience, and also respect the people and places that I love, but that were hurtful and harmful to me.
Yeah.
Because the tension between those two things, and in some sense wanting to protect people, but then also having to acknowledge that whether it was with the best of intentions or not, it was still harmful. And there were still impacts that were made that I've had to spend years working through and undoing.
Yeah.
And so whether it's the church that I grew up in or the school that I grew up in or different relationships that I've had, and people that I love deeply in places that brought good too. Like I have so many good memories attached to those places too, but they also facilitated a lot of harm and a lot of trauma that, like I've had to rewire my brain for.
Totally. I feel like you're just so respectful about those things. So
Yeah. I think you're doing a good job with that.
Yeah.
So when it seems like at this point you've processed this through with God, and you got you got a degree in theology and took this to the Bible, took this to God. When you first were coming out, or even like when you first were dating, was it something that you felt okay with God right away, or was that part of the process? Like when you were dating this girl for the first time, what was that like with your relationship with God?
It's hard to say what it was like with me and God then, because part of my process, part of my journey has been doing a better job of identifying what is God and what is people.
Yep.
And what I believe or what I feel, what's been projected on me because of what people are telling me and because of what I've been taught my whole life. Whether it was relevant at the time or not, anything that I had learned in church or in school from the time that I was conscious and aware of it was in me. Whether it was something that was at the forefront of my mind or not, it still shaped me in some way. And my experiences, my feelings, all of those things had to go through those lenses and through those filters. And so what helped me the most in my relationship with God was separating the people that represented God or claimed to speak on behalf of God, and then God, actually God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more I did that, the more I realized the shame and the fear and the guilt that I felt was more from people than from God. And the more I started to learn about God, and not even in reference to whether or not my sexuality was okay, but just learning about the character of God, reading the Gospels and seeing God personified through Jesus and how he lived his life, I started to really realize like things aren't adding up here. The God that I perceived was not necessarily the God that I read about in the Bible.
Yeah.
And seeing who Jesus chose to spend the most time with, seeing the people that Jesus sought out, they were not the people in church.
Yeah.
The more I started to learn that on my own, the more that the uncomfortable situations and misrepresentations of God were striking to me. Whereas before they were very normal.
Yeah.
It was very like an average day.
Yeah.
And some of the experiences that I had then with church people or people that claim to be Christians, a lot of people in my life didn't know I was gay. Very few people in my life knew that I was gay. But the more I started to hang around with gay people, the more I started to bring them around, the more I realized how much, if I were to come out, I would not be accepted. And so comments that were made to me about my friends or even about my girlfriend, whether they knew she was my girlfriend or not. Comments like, people send their kids to this school to protect them from people like that.
Oof.
Not knowing that I'm gay.
Oof.
Or like, that's not the optics we're going for. Because my friends would come around I would do open gym, so we would just like play pickup ball, and my team would be there and my friends would be there. Some more obviously gay than others. Or I would like give them one of our team shirts and they would come to games, and that became like a real problem because I was like pulled into an office one day and told, those are not the type of people we want representing us. Dang. The optics of that is not the look that we're going for.
Oh my gosh.
And those moments were hard, but so helpful for me in a way that helped me realize that I needed to remove myself from that situation because I no longer aligned with those beliefs. Because the more I knew about Jesus, the more I knew about the people that he would want to hang out with, he was not ashamed to be seen with certain people. He wasn't worried about who was, in his circle in that way. And the idea that there's a community of people that don't fit with the optics of a Christian organization. And that was like those were clear instances of being othered. And in one situation, the scenario was presented to me, or the question was presented, what if one of them finds, them being one of my gay friends, finds themselves in a locker room with one of the girls and she needs to change? Like, what would happen? The implication being some type of assault.
Oh my gosh.
And just whether it's ignorance, whether it's fear manifesting as hate, whatever it is, those were things that thankfully I was deep enough into my journey to be able to separate and no longer like accept those things for myself. To where I wasn't internalizing it and allowing it to be another reason for me to not be okay or accept who I was. And so when I think I was like 25, by the time I had really fully removed myself completely from any type of place where I couldn't be out, where I had to sign a contract saying that I wouldn't be gay, where I could like start to explore my life and myself more authentically was huge for me. So the separation of, to answer your question, the separation of God and who he is from who people say he is, or what people say he's okay with and not okay with, and leaning in and starting to figure that out for myself, and figuring out that if I lean in, I will always find the answer. Like he honors that. And it's not just this like empty search. Like if you put in the effort, like he will meet you. Absolutely.
That's beautiful. I love that, because I think so many people going through a similar story that you've been through would find themselves saying, I don't want anything to do with Christianity or God because of the people that have represented him. But you have like just some wisdom within you that you are able to separate the two and come out stronger with God.
Don't get me wrong. I had those moments.
Oh yeah.
I definitely had those moments where I was like, and part of it too was like, you want nothing to do with me? Fine, then I want nothing to do with you. And it wasn't God. It was church. It was people. And definitely for a long time, a sense of like disqualification. And in realizing if I can't change this and God's not changing this, then then I can't be a part of this. Like I'm getting kicked out of the club basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there were definitely moments of that.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard like the karaoke analogy?
No.
Which one? I guess there's not a lot of them.
Karaoke.
I do love karaoke.
Have you guys ever heard like a terrible like someone covers a song that you really like and it's just terrible?
That
like it
was
almost
me.
ruins.
I did that.
That was Nate. Yeah, he did.
I tried a Paramore
What
song that I
song
could
was
not do. I was like having a good time. And I was
were-
like with people I didn't know. This is a different night.
Oh, okay.
I went like to a random spot.
By yourself?
By yourself?
It was when I was in LA by myself, and I was just like, I didn't have that many friends down there, so I was just like, I'm gonna go to a random bar and do karaoke. I did it, and I met some random people. I sang Misery Business by Paramore, and I can't really sing. And that's a bad song to do if you can't really sing. So I was that moment, and I was trying to hit those notes. I'm like, oh, this is awful. And I love this song, and everybody's looking at me, and they know it's awful.
That
and
is so funny.
I was that moment. So what's, sorry, what was your story? I just want to talk about myself again.
It's actually
I have a story for everything. That's actually a problem.
Do you have one for London Bridge?
No, because that's a friend.
Yeah.
We sang London Bridge at a karaoke night, and there was a mishap.
There was a little mishap. We
Someone
call it
may have
London
fallen
Bridge
off.
Gate. No, we
London
can't
Bridge
say it.
Gate.
And maybe it was me, and we don't know. Someone may have
was
fallen
Nate.
off the London
Yeah,
Bridge
Nate fell.
of karaoke. Someone fell off the stage while we were singing. It's such a good. We'll show you the clip later.
It
I was
Sorry,
gonna say
there's
there's got to be video proof.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
video, but we can't show it, and we can't show who it
There are
is.
different angles
It's
too.
unnamed. We have edits.
It's
we have
unnamed,
clips,
yeah.
But
It was
there's
Brian.
privacy, and we won't share who it was.
No.
And so sorry if you're watching this. I love you so
I
much,
don't
and I'm so
think
sorry.
they
And it was
are.
me actually. I fell.
No names will be named.
But I've
Yeah.
also fallen off the stage doing karaoke. That was to Wrecking Ball. So we're just problematic as a group.
I feel like fits. Like if you don't fall off the stage singing Wrecking Ball, then are you even singing it?
Trying. Well, we were trying to jump off the sage at the Wrecking Ball part, and I jumped, and then I stumbled. And anyways, what was your analogy about karaoke?
When someone does a terrible job covering the song to the point where they almost even ruin the song, you don't blame it on the artist.
Ooh.
And just the idea that people can sometimes do a terrible job representing God. And it doesn't excuse them doing that.
Yeah.
But the idea that I was going to write off God or end a relationship with God because of the people that did a terrible job covering his songs.
Yeah.
That's so good, and we totally messed that beautiful analogy up by
No, because it still landed.
our stupid stories. That's so great. I've never heard that, and that really is landing for me. Yeah, it's resonating. Dang, that's good.
I love that. I think it's been kind of a theme in the last few episodes,
Yeah.
like not throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
just because of how people are representing God, that's not what my relationship with God is like. My relationship with God never made me feel like crappy for my gay side. Like now that I think about it, taking that to Jesus, I never was like, oh, God's trying to tell me to get rid of this part. I never felt that. The church made me feel that way.
Yeah.
God never did.
Totally. And that really started the part of learning about not only who he is, but then also my relationship with him. And it sounds so incredibly cliche, but the thing that absolutely altered my life was learning how much he loves me.
Wow.
And not in a like God loves everybody, like an obligatory he has to love me type of way. But then like the deeper I dug, and this is even like more recent in my journey, is realizing that he actually likes me.
Yeah.
Like there are people that you love but you don't like.
I thought the same about you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
Unfortunately, we're married.
We know, and so it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
It's a
It's
hatred.
like arranged
really.
marriage kind of situation, but like you learn to work with each other. It's great.
No, but like that was sometimes how I felt, where it was like God loved me, but then also did he kind of hate me because I'm gay?
Damn.
And then this learning of not just his love, but like his affection for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pookie.
Yeah. God loves you, so I can too.
It's true. He gives me the power every day.
Every day with you is learning about grace. And I thank
mercy.
God for that from you. And kindness.
And self-control. And all the fruits of the Spirit. I practice them with you.
Oh my God. Thank you.
No, but really, I do love you and I appreciate you.
Wow.
Anyways.
Well, sorry, we needed this moment. Thank you for facilitating it.
I'm so glad I could be here for this moment.
Tension. It's been building. And it's... We'll talk
Zero
later. Our therapist is working hard on us.
Yeah, we have a couples therapist.
We have a special marriage therapist. It's a podcast therapist.
Wait, do you actually?
No, not really.
Could you
someday, maybe we will.
I'm learning how gullible I am in this episode. First with your letter, and then your.
So this is chaos, and I don't know why. We decided to be chaotic today. You're welcome. I thank you bring it out of us, and thank you for that.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be the first person that tells me I bring chaos out of them.
So we hung out yesterday, and we were walking back, like all three of us, and I was like walking, and I was like, Brittany's so cool. She just got like a cool energy about her. So I feel like you really complete the three, the trio.
The trio.
Yeah.
Oh, did we just become the three musketeers?
We could.
The three amigos.
Oh,
cheers.
Honor.
If you're not watching, we just cheers our mics.
Oh wait, but was there a point that we were like in the middle of?
There was
a point we were in the middle of, and then you were talking about us, and we were talking about
We're talking about God's love.
Yeah.
Oh, love, not just like he loves you.
Yes.
He
Loves
likes
you.
you. Okay, finish that, and we're sorry. She's sorry. She apologizes for interrupting you.
Does he always speak for you like that?
Yeah, always. It's kind of a weird man thing.
I'm helping you.
A weird man thing.
And practicing different man things. Just, it's something I'm doing. It's fine. We'll talk about it there.
Anywho, okay, God loves you.
Yes, he does. And the more that I lean into that and that I trust that he is good and wants good for me, the more I've seen my relationship with him grow and evolve, to the point where it's like so cool to see things in my life that are totally just God things that I could never orchestrate on my own.
That's
like
cool.
this.
Yeah.
Totally like this being one of those things. And that the more I learn about who he is and how much good he wants for me, the more I can like align myself with that.
Yeah.
And I think I told you guys the story, but one of the things that I started to realize that I wanted, like a deep desire, was to know other people with similar stories to mine.
Yeah.
In wanting that community. Because while I am fully out now and have spaces where I can bring all of me, it just hits different when you meet someone and you have similar life experiences.
Yeah.
And so that was something I began to pray for. Just like a community of people that are similar to me. Yeah. And within like a week, Nate's face popped up on my phone on TikTok.
Oh, shoot.
And was like, I'm a pastor's kid and I'm gay.
Dang.
And it was just such like a, you've got to be kidding me, but like in the best way possible.
That's so crazy.
Something super similar happened to me with, I knew I needed to start therapy again, but here's a story for you guys. I've been ghosted by 2 therapists.
What?
That's like, you really hit a new low and you're like, my therapists are ghosting me? What's wrong with
That's
me?
wild.
I am that. No, just kidding.
Turns out
I had a therapist ghost me too, so I get it.
one of them had like a really complicated pregnancy and just like had to go MIA.
Yeah.
Another one ended up having a brain tumor. Can't make this stuff up.
I would not want to be your therapist after that. I'm like, what happened to your last
literally.
2? Okay. No, we're good.
So it had been like a year or so since I had been in therapy, and I was just mad. I was just like, I don't like starting with a new therapist. You have to tell all the same stories, go through all the same stuff, and it's just not fun. I was angry. And so I prayed like, Lord, if you want me to be in therapy, and I gave him a list. And I was like, they need to be Christian. They need to be affirming. They need to be gay. And you basically are going to have to drop this into my lap because I'm done. Like when I've looked for therapists before, I've like sent out emails like, hey, I know you're a Christian therapist, but are you affirming? Or, and the amount of times that therapists have been like, we're not a good fit. So I was just like, I'm done going through this process starting with someone new. And I kid you not, within like a week or so, I have a video pop up on my feed. Like, are you looking for a gay Christian therapist?
Holy crap.
I have an organization, and it's incredible. It's called The Christian Closet.
Cool.
Oh my gosh. I think I had a therapist through the Christian Closet for a little bit. That's so funny.
Shout out to the Christian Closet.
And it was literally, shout out to my therapist too.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
And yeah, like things like that, where it's like when you move out of a place of he loves me and wants good for me, and you can't get to that until you separate all the other BS that comes from people. That doesn't come from him. And so that has now put me in a place, the best place that I've ever been.
Dang.
That's so cool.
Man, your story is beautiful. Thank you for sharing it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
God's doing some work through your algorithm.
Yeah, honestly.
That's really funny.
Seriously.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But like I was saying earlier, I think I'm excited that because I don't think you've really shared this online before, and you have a lot of clarity, and I don't know, like us pastor kids, like go through all this, have something to
say is that
you're awesome.
You are awesome.
Yeah.
And can I speak for you now?
Yeah.
And that you have a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
And that thank you for sharing and trusting us with your story.
Yeah.
Did I nail it?
Yeah.
Did I woman-splain?
Nailed it.
Yeah, and I respect that, because I think sometimes you can speak better than I can, and you should speak for me, so I get to for you sometimes too. Wow, our therapist is doing wonders.
Wonders.
Shout out
Is
to
there any?
It's you.
I feel like that about wraps it up. Is there anything that you would say to 16-year-old you or 20-year-old you, whichever you needed you the most right now, to the camera?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question. You didn't even prep me for that question.
Yeah.
Or Nader Pooter.
I know.
Wow. They talked about this in therapy too. You need to stop cutting me down. You need to respect me as a man. I'm a man. What kind of adult man gets called Nader Pooter? It's really it's homophobic of you, honestly. But
yeah,
now we're focused
We've
in on
given you
here
some time to think about it.
I don't know if it would be like a certain age, because it's been such a long process for so long.
Yeah.
But I would say younger me, hang in there. Everything's going to work out exactly the way it's supposed to. And life's going to end up being so much more beautiful than you could ever imagine.
Boom.
Dang. Okay. That's good.
All right. Well,
should we sign it out? Nader Pooter?
I think that's the end. I think that sums it up pretty well.
I'm Pooter.
Ew.
Nader.
Ew, Susie. I think there's nothing else to do here before Susie causes more problems. No, Susie is just honestly giving me back a tiny portion of what I've done to you. This is all fair game, and I respect
given me
it.
feedback. I want you to be more silly.
No,
and this is me being silly,
it's
Pooter.
Crazy. I'm just not ready, and I'm so excited it's happening. But just it's literally blowing my mind. I'm very confused.
Remember when
you
asked? Yeah, you're welcome, guys. You asked for more mean Susie.
Oh my
I think
God.
this is her version of me.
We have a witness, and it's still.
I was also witness
cute.
to the Nader Pooter.
Yeah. See.
I did tell you about that. That's my pet name. I said
okay. Another compliment that Nate gave me this week. No,
and this episode.
2 weeks ago. Nate said, "Your kindness is exhausting." And I actually really love that.
He didn't mean it as a compliment.
But it is. I know.
Oh my God.
So sweet. Anyways, signing out.
Signing out.
Pooter.
God darn it.
Britt.
Okay.
Oh wait, did you want to plug your socials or anything?
I don't think you're like that.
Okay.
No.
Someday we're gonna plug our socials when she's famous. You start a TikTok. But follow us on the socials or whatever. Like us, and we started a Discord so people can chat with each other. It's free. If you want to chat with other people like us, go on there. I'm on there sometimes, and love to see you there. But that's, I think, it for the I Try to Be Straight podcast with Nate, Susie, and
Britt, apparently.
Britt. Okay.
All right, bye.
Out.
We out.